And welcome aboard. Today's video is basically going to be showing how to get a flight plan into the FMC and the Zibo 737. I thought I'd do it using the little nav map as an intermediary step so that you can visualize how the flight plan works, and hopefully that will help understanding how it all works. Okay, I've already created a flight plan on SimBrief from EGNX to EIDW, and it's generated the flight plan. And if we have a look over here, there's our routing. So it looks like just a whole load of letters and numbers, but it's all fairly straightforward. I've stuck it into Notepad so you can see it over there, and I think we should first go to a little nav map where I've got the basic route from East Midlands to Dublin set up already. Now, the first part of the flight plan is telling us we're going to leave EGNX and we're going to use runway 27. Obviously that'll change depending on the time that you create the flight plan in SimBrief because of the winds. And we're going to land on runway 28 at EIDW, which is Dublin. When we leave East Midlands, we're going to use the TNT2N departure, which goes to waypoint TNT, which is why it's named that. We then use airway UQ4. Now, an airway is like a highway in the sky. If you have a look over here, I've got airways turned on. It's just this button here, which says J. Turn it off, which is the default. We can turn it back on again. And if we have a look near East Midlands, you'll see there's our TNT waypoint there. And we're going to leave that waypoint and use UQ4, which basically just means we're going to use UQ4, which is this airway here. And we're going to go down that airway until we get to Vabka. Anyway, enough talking about it. Let's plug this flight plan in and see how it looks on the little nav map. So in EGNX, you're going to right click and say Show Departure Procedures, and then we're going to see the procedure TNT2N, which is the one in the flight plan over there. So we right click on it and you can see how it leaves the airport and runs up to the VOR beacon, and we're going to insert that into the flight plan. So it's already put that in for us. We now need to go to Vabka because we're at TNT. So let's have a look at where Vabka is. When we click it, it'll highlight it on the map, so it's over here. Now, if you have a look, it's not a straight line from TNT to Vabka. So we're going to add Vabka to the flight plan, but we'll see what it does. It's now not following UQ4 from there to there, which means we need to also fly through Listo. But the navigation in the plane understands that we're going to follow UQ4 because we'll plug it in. So it'll go there to Listo and then UQ4 out of Listo until we get to Vabka. So for our purposes in Rule Nav Map, we're just going to add that point to the flight plan. So we've now got that part of the flight plan entered in. From Vabka, we're now going to go on airway UL8. So let's have a look and see where UL8 is. UL8 is over here. And we're going to go to ASNIP. So let's look and see where ASNIP is. Ooh, too many N's. Okay, ASNIP is right there. So this is directly from there to there with no other waypoints in between. So we can just add that to the flight plan. From ASNIP, we're now going to use airway UL2. Oh, UL28 has gone over the line, just to confuse everybody. Right, UL28, which is this one over here, and we're going to go to Leldo. So we'll find Leldo on the map. Okay, Leldo is over there, and we can add that to the flight plan. And you'll see again, we're not following UL28 exactly. UL28 runs through waypoints Penil and Dundee. So if we add Penil, we should now be going through Dundee to Lildo. Then we are going to use airway M145, which is this line over here. And M145, we're going to go to Bagso, which is over there, I can see already. But let's do the search the normal way. Bagso is now highlighted there. And if we add that, it's not following the airway, so we just click on that waypoint and add it, and it's going through all those waypoints to there. Now you'll see when we punch it into the plane, it'll include all of these waypoints, even though we're not going to punch them in, because it knows what waypoints are on UL28. So we're now at Bagso, and we're then going to use the Bagso 01X arrival to the airport. So we right click on the airport and say show arrival procedures, and we're looking for Bags 01X. Could be Bags 1X. Let's have a look and see if there is one physically called 01. No, there isn't. Just double check. Okay, so in this case, that O is redundant. So we will, if we click it, you'll see that it flies us around there to the Lapmo point. And if we open it up, there's no specific transition point, so we'll just add that to the plan. So there's our flight plan now. And obviously at this point we can just do an approach, which we want to do potentially ILS on runway 28. It's 28 over there. And the transition is Lapmo, which is that. It's absolutely perfect. And this will give us a little hold there in case we need it, and it'll give us our go-around procedure. So you don't have to add this, but it's nice just to be complete. So if we now zoom out, that string of text there describes that route over there. So now we've seen it on the map, we can now enter this into the computer on the plane. Okay, so I've done the initial settings on the plane, and we've initialized the navigation, and all we need to do is enter the route. Let's unpause the sim. Okay, very first thing you do is your departure and arrival airports. So that is EGNX, and we're going to EIDW. Okay. Now it's route page 1 of 2 over there. So if we go to the next page, we'll now see our route is via and to. But I don't like to jump in the middle of the route, so let's go back to the main route page. I like to first put in my departure. So for that we go to departure arrivals, and we're doing the departure for EGNX, and we're going to pick the TNT2N, which is what it says over there. Ooh, sorry, I do apologize. First thing you have to do for departure is pick your runway. So we've picked runway 27, and it's now given us limited choices, and then we pick the TNT2N. There are no transitions to choose, so we will then go to route, and we can now activate that route, execute. So now if we go to the next page, it's put that in there for us. So we're already at TNT. So from TNT we want to use airway UQ4, which is via UQ4. So we'll type that in there, put it in the left, and if there is no UQ4 at TNT, it'll shout at this point, but it hasn't shouted. So then we want to go to VABCA. And again, it checks to see if VABCA is on the airway UQ4, and if it's not, it'll shout. From VABCA, we're using UL8. And we're going to travel down UL8 until we get to ASNIP. Okay. From ASNIP, we're going to go on UL28. Again on the via. And from UL28, we're going to stop at Leldo. Okay, from Leldo, we're going to take airway M145. And from M145, we're going to go to Bagso. Right, so now essentially we're done with our flight plan, because our next is our arrival and then to the airport. So let's execute that. It's now actual route is correct over there. If we now go to departure arrival, now you don't have to do this now. You can do this on the flight, but it's probably easier to get it done now. And it could change during the flight, but for our purposes, probably not. So we're going to go EIDW, which is our destination, arrivals, and we are going to go to the bags 1X. There's a bags 1K. So we need to go next page, bags 1X, there we go. Now there's no transition selected, so from there we chose on little nav map ILS 28. So we'll choose that, and our transition, if you recall, was LAPMO. So we'll choose that, and we're going to execute it. So now, if we go back to our route, next page, bags 1X, ILS 28, and then a missed approach procedure, which again we saw on little nav map with the dotted lines leading away. Now the really nice thing here is, if we go to legs, this will now have filled in all of the little points on our whole flight plan. So over here, our first leg is to a point called D270A. If I pop up a little nav map, and we zoom right into here, somewhere here there's going to be a point on this departure. There we go, D270A. So the flight computer has essentially done exactly the same job as a little nav map. It's just that it's done automatically filled in this bent line instead of being a straight line. You'll see that listo we added manually. If we go back onto the flight computer and go next page, listo is in there all automatically. It's not part of our flight plan. And really it's as simple as that. That's the flight plan done, start to finish. What you can do, which I might not be able to do because the ILS is not fully aligned yet, the INS, sorry, is not fully aligned, is we should be able to go to plan mode. Can't do it on plan mode, unfortunately at this time. But if you go to plan mode when your displays are initialized, you can then use the step button and it will draw the map on this display over here. And as you push step, it'll follow it waypoint to waypoint. And you should see exactly the same route come up as you see on little nav map, just in little bits. So that's it, simple as that. It's really not that difficult. It's just really understanding that the airways are kind of like the freeways, and all your waypoints are kind of on and off ramps. The only other thing you need to know is if you don't use an airway to go between two waypoints, which you commonly do if you are flying over the ocean, you would have a direct, which would just be written like that in the flight plan, just a straight DCT. So then you would ignore the via column and you put VABCA into the right-hand column, and then you put ASNIP into the right-hand column below it without putting anything in via, and it knows that it's then direct from that waypoint to that. Okay, I hope that helped. Any questions, you know where to find me.